Good day, folks. Welcome to Monitoring and Evaluation Made Simple. I'm your host, Coach Alexander. I'm so glad that you've joined me today. We're going to be looking at how to monitor and evaluate a project, which is part three of a seven-part series which I'm releasing this week. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to this channel because on a daily, weekly, and regular basis, I post updates in monitoring and evaluation. But if you haven't done so as well, please download these totally free ebooks. Okay, the link is in the description. You don't have to pay for anything because this is totally free, no strings attached, guys. And I have a course which I'm running on Udemy called How to Set Up an M&D System Step by Step. It is damn cheap, $13. It may even be cheaper depending on how Udemy is feeling that day, because usually they do cheap, affordable things. So please do well to get through, buy this course, and you learn a great deal. Okay, so as usual, this video is long, but take full advantage of the timestamps which are in the description below, okay, so that you can get the maximum benefit from this tutorial. Okay, so now we'll be looking at how do you monitor and evaluate a project. In the last two parts, we talked about the need to do a desk review. So today I'm going to talk about why it's important to define the key performance indicators and how do you do it. So first of all, I want us to understand what are the key performance indicators. If you've been on my channel for a very long time, you realize that I've done a lot of videos on key performance indicators, and quite sadly, I don't know what it is. On YouTube, I don't get the views that I'm looking for because I feel that this is very important, understanding the key performance indicators. And I feel that many people need to understand this because this is really why M&D professionals are born, because of these key performance indicators. So key performance indicators are actually variables. Okay, so when you hear the word key performance indicator, what should come into your mind is that these are measurements that you use to gauge whether a project is achieving its objective or not. Okay, so you have these variables, they can be going positive, they can be going negative, depending on how an objective, depending on whether you're achieving your objectives. A good example of a key performance indicator is, for instance, if you have a project which wants to reduce poverty and hunger in a certain community, a good key performance indicator could be percentage of people living below the below $1 a day. Okay, so that could be an indicator. So as you can see from that indicator that I've mentioned, it can either be a positive indicator or it could either be negative depending on what you measure at a given point in time. So these indicators are at different levels, and this is something you really need to understand. And at these different levels, you discover that monitoring is usually done at the the last two levels in this which I have shown here. Okay, I'll explain further. You see, you've got the input indicators, which are basically what you put in, okay, the resources. All right, so if for instance you are pumping in a lot of resources in terms of money, in terms of time, those can be measured using indicators. Okay, then you've got the output indicators, which are basically the outputs of certain activities, the final product, okay, of an activity. So for instance, if you are conducting trainings on how to build a dam, if you are training people on how to build a dam, those people will be trained, will have the skills, and the final thing they come up with is a dam, all right? Okay, a dam is basically, or maybe I'm using the wrong example. I don't want to be too complicated. I could also use a house as an example. You train people on how to build a very good house. The final product they come up with is a house because you've trained them. So the output there is that house. And there's that of um, chain of results that come out as a result of having these trainings and bringing out the outputs, which later translates into an outcome and impact. Okay, I hope I'm not being too confusing, but I'm sure you can get the sense of what I'm talking about, because in many of my videos I do talk about these different types of indicators. I do talk about what's the difference between impact and what's the difference between outcome and outputs. Okay, so let's go on further. Okay, so based on the example, you remember I talked in my previous presentation, in the previous tutorial, which was done actually a few hours ago, which was yesterday. I talked about the need to look at the project document as a way of desk review. But then I also talked about the need for you to look at the log frame, because that is what I always do, guys. All right. I always look at the logical framework matrix in order to get a sense of what is happening, because it's easier that way. It gives a summary. Okay. So I did uh, use an example of a program that was being implemented by the United Nations through one of its agencies, and clearly they had everything in order in the document. And I also touched a bit on what the indicators are. So just give me a few seconds. Let's go to that document and see where the indicators are. Let us define these indicators together, okay? Because that is one of the steps when you have to do monitoring and evaluation. So just give me a few seconds, guys. Hi guys, welcome back. Okay, so this is the program I was talking about. If you were watching my previous tutorial, I'm sure you got to appreciate that indeed this is a very good program that was being implemented by UNESCO. Okay, so like I earlier mentioned, if I'm feeling lazy, I'll just look for the logical framework matrix. Some project documents, you'll be shocked, don't even have a log frame, but I wouldn't expect that from well-renowned organizations like UNESCO to miss such things. So I just go to the logical framework like this. So there is the logical framework. Okay, so I look for the matrix. So this is the actual matrix. So now, as you can see, there is this intervention logic, which is simply just telling you how an output translates to an outcome, how an outcome translates to impact. Okay, so it's just giving you some logical flow. But my area of interest is the indicators, the key performance indicators. Sometimes they call them objectively verifiable indicators. Okay, or some people just say indicators. You just have to say indicators and we all get what you're talking about. So normally what I do, I'll look for the indicators. Before I go in the field to monitor anything or evaluate anything, I'll look for the indicators, and these are the indicators. So for instance, you have the development objective, which is to improve the management and conservation of earth and architecture properties protected under the World Heritage Convention as an important tool for sustainable development. So now the indicators that they devised was conservation and management activities are implemented. All right. So those are the indicators. Now, let me tell you one thing, guys. It's not that I definitely have my own limitations when it comes to implementation of M&D. But one of the things I've seen, even with renowned organizations, sometimes they don't define these things carefully. Okay, and you find that, like, if it's defined this way, conservation and management activities are implemented, it doesn't really give you what exactly, it doesn't give you that sense that this is actually a variable. Okay, because an indicator should be a variable that can either move upwards or downwards. But without, let's not touch maybe this one, let's touch this one. It says number of studies at site and evaluations of past interventions undertaken. So this is the indicator for the specific objective one, to develop appropriate methods and techniques. Okay, so now when they say number of studies at sites and evaluations, they are saying that they actually monitor this annually, okay, or they have the individual activity reports. So the point I'm trying to say is that in one year, the number of studies conducted could be, let's say for example's sake, could be 10 studies conducted. But the following year, it could be 9 studies, and the year following that could be 13 studies. So you can see that over a period of time, this indicator can be shifting, it can be growing, it can be going downwards. Okay, that's what an indicator does. So now, when you have identified all these indicators, all I do is, let me open my notebook, or maybe there isn't really any. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just highlight, okay, like that, copy and paste the indicator somewhere, all right? And I've already done this. I'm just showing you what I do normally. So let's say these are the other indicators. I'll copy this indicator, copy it and paste it somewhere so that I get a sense of what the indicators are. Okay, I do the same with this indicator. I copy it and paste it somewhere. So I already did this, guys. So let's see what I did. Give me just a few seconds again to switch places. Hi guys, welcome back. So as you can see, I have copied and pasted all the indicators, all right? Because that's what you're supposed to do. You need to be familiar with all the indicators, okay? So as you can see, I've copied and pasted all the indicators up to this level. So if you look at, sorry about that, if you look at the project, you'll discover that there are actually 34 indicators in this project. And what that tells you is that these are indicators that need to be monitored and evaluated. So now I have to tell you that, like I earlier mentioned, depending on the level of the indicator, it will tell you whether you should be actually monitoring it or you should be evaluating it. All right, let me explain. For instance, these high level indicators, like the ones which you saw at the highest level, those are usually the impact indicators. And usually those kind of indicators, because they are not monitored frequently, and because it takes time to see change, those are indicators that are done at an evaluation stage. So you hire a consultant to determine whether change has happened. But for indicators that are collected regularly, that is where you do the monitoring. And these are the indicators such as number of trainings, number of participants who attended those trainings, okay, number of activities conducted in the quarter related to whatever thing you are promoting. Those are normally the routine indicators. Okay, so guys, as you can see, this is the next step you do. You just need to define the indicators. I usually list them down. There's something I need to also mention is that you need to do what is called indicator referencing. So all these indicators need to be clearly defined, and you need to fully explain how you'll be deriving them, analyzing them, and reporting on them. Okay, so that's all I had for you guys. I sure hope you enjoyed this presentation, and In a few hours time, I'm going to be releasing part 4. So at this point in time, I want to say bye until we meet again. See you on the other side. Bye.